So it's Saturday, and we already had a very tea-filled Saturday so far, which I'm not complaining about. It's good to have a tea weekend, but today we're going to be doing a little bit more of the water explorations we've been doing over the last couple, months, with something I haven't done before, which is to test ice cubes made with 3 different kinds of water and their effectiveness in extracting tea using the koridashi method. So koridashi is an ice brew method that was popularized in Japan, but I think lots of different tea cultures actually use this kind of method. But the Japanese, I think, popularized it the most for the West, which is why we use koridashi the most. You'll hear about it the most here in the West. But I think that, my hypothesis is that we already found out together that water quality is extremely important for extracting tea in a hot brew setting. I have a feeling that the same will apply in the ice brew setting, just because it's just freezing the water. So we will see if the results will be different with the 3 different kinds of ice that we made. We're going to be using the Tea Curious water recipe, and then we're using filtered water from a Brita. Just to kind of copy what a lot of people might have at home. And then we'll also have ice made with Vegas tap water, which, Vegas tap water is not the best. It's what happens when you try to tap water in the desert. So it'll be quite the range of ices we'll be trying out today. And if you tried this method before, I think that this is super important to test out because it takes a lot of effort to ice brew tea. It takes some time, it takes some patience. I'm not the most patient person, so I think before you even attempt further to do more koridashi ice brew, I think we gotta figure out what ice works the best, right? So, those of you who've been with us for a long time now know that I think that water quality is the most underrated, undersold, people don't talk about it enough when every single tea session that we have is dictated by our water. It doesn't matter how nice your teapot is, it doesn't matter how good you brew. You'll change from day to day. Your teapots will be different with different teas. The quality of your tea will change. But if you have the right water, whether it's hot brew, cold brew, or ice brew, I think you'll have much more control over your tea and a better result. So we'll get started. I'm going to start weighing this out. We're going to do 2.5 grams of a Sai Midori sencha from Tea and Whisk. I think this is like a deep steamed sencha, a sencha that I know really well. If you ever do these tests, recommend you use a tea that you know pretty well so that you can kind of see much clearer what the changes are once you get into it. So yeah, we'll get that started. I haven't set up the ice yet because we will try to use a method that accelerates the process a little bit more, which is we put the ice on top of the leaves, but we'll also pour a little bit of cold water just to accelerate the brewing process, see how fast we can get it to be. So it's a little bit of like a hybrid of the koridashi method, but something that you'll see too in Japan. So welcome, let us know what you guys are drinking. I see Chris, who we saw this morning already. Axolot tea. Is that a new account, my friend? Nice to see you. 23 Axolotl, Tea Room Stories, Mr. Hanaval, Ronan, nice to see you. Jay, nice to see you again. Jeremy, another Jeremy for us, and Chavain. I gotta put my French goggles on. So yeah, let's get started. Let us know what you guys are drinking on this lovely Saturday. We've had a lot of tea in the last 24 hours, my friend. Me and Steven have been having a lot of tea. We wrapped up the tea roadmap challenge this morning. We had a tea session with a friend we hadn't seen since March. It's crazy how much the world has changed since March. But all is well. So we've had some oolong so far this morning. And we're going to have the Sai Midori Sencha ice brewed, which I'm quite excited to try. And again, we've never done this experiment before, so I don't know if this is going to work. And as always, I'll be super honest if it does or doesn't work. And bias alert, I am rooting for the Tea Curious water formula ice to do well today because it's our water. Yeah, something that we found out from last month's cold brew challenge in August was that our formula does pretty well with cold brew, but I think it could be a little bit better. I suspect that not only does the water quality matter for hot brew, but also cold brew and ice brew. And there might be a different mineral composition that works well for hot cold brew and ice brew. I know that sounds complicated because we want to have just one good water across the board. But number one, there is no one good water across the board, except it's the Curious water formula. It's very like in the middle, which is how we made it. But again, and then number two, the temperature and then the duration of time that we're working with cold brew and ice brew is just a little bit different from hot brew. So I think it makes sense that we need a different kind of water. It's not going to be a drastically different water. So for example, a water that's bad for hot brew, I don't think will be suddenly magically good for ice brew. But who knows? We'll see. This is why we do these tests, because sometimes what I think is true doesn't turn out to be correct. And that's the good thing, because then, you know, we can revise what we thought in the beginning and learn some more as we're going along. Something that I was surprised by is that sparkling water brews tea very well in the cold brew setting. And sparkling water is actually very hard, right? Like your San Pellegrino and your Evian, not Evian, a Perrier. Those are very hard waters. Mineral waters that are sparkling tend to be very hard because they help with the taste that you want from sparkling water. But hard waters don't tend to do well with hot brewed teas, but they seem to do just fine in the sparkling cold brew. So I think there's some stuff we haven't, you know, tested yet. And what are the answers? I don't know what the answers are, but we can test them out today. So we got 2.5 grams of Sai Midori Fukamushi Sencha from, I forgot where this is from. I think it's from Shizuoka. It's a single cultivar organic sencha that I know super well, that you guys have probably seen me work with a lot. So we do that so that if something crazy happens with it, like if it suddenly doesn't taste like itself, you know, we can rule that the ice was used was quite a drastic effect on the tea. Okay, so we've got our little star-shaped ice cubes here because I'm super extra and I like these, and they're also easier to pop out. But I also have a feeling that these ice cubes have a bigger surface area. So my little star-shaped ice cubes, I will put them on now. Yeah, so I'm trying something out. Help me keep track of which ones these are. This is partially why we do this live, so if there's something I'm missing, you can remind me. This is going to be the Tea Curious ice. This will be the filtered Brita ice, and then the Vegas tap water ice. Disclosing my bias again, we're rooting for the Tea Curious water. So if there's anything to do with tea energy and intention, this one will have an advantage because I'm rooting for it because it's our baby. And again, the Tea Curious water is a remineralized water recipe we developed for hot brew, which is just, it's so dreamy. It's so good. We make it at home and it saves us so much money and gives us so much control over the tea. So let's start with Tea Curious water. And again, if you guys are wondering how you're going to melt this in time, we're going to pour a little bit of cold water over the top of the ice cubes to just accelerate them a little bit more. So we'll start with the Tea Curious water. And we made sure to make them all the same shapes so that they will be consistent. Because we also have these ice cubes, but they're kind of boring.
They're not stars.
They're not stars. I mean, are you using... Is anyone else using rectangle ice cubes? My lordy. So Tea Curious water, ice, and then we will do filtered. So this is Brita filter. So if you have a Brita filter at home, this is the same water, more or less. Actually, no, I take that back. If you have a Brita filter at home, your filter is doing about the same thing to your water as it's doing to mine, but we start with different tap waters. So actually, we don't have the same water. So if you have a hard water to start with, the Brita filter has to work a little bit harder to strip out what it needs to. If you have a softer water, Brita filter will, need to do a little bit less work. So that's partially why I'm not, I think Brita filters, pure filters, Culligan filters, these, refrigerator filters work really well for the most part, but they're still not as consistent as having just a water formula, I would say, because you can't control your tap and how it fluctuates. So let's say in the summer, your water might be harder, so then even if you run it through the filter on your refrigerator pitcher, it may or may not, be the same as your winter tap water, just because of the way that water behaves in like reservoirs and wells and stuff like that. I just like consistency in tea, so that if there's a mistake that I make, I know I can just blame me or the tea or my brewing style, not my water. All right, so, and then last one's the tap water over here. So yeah, so we put 6 ice cubes in. I'm noticing that just on average, the tap water one is a little bit cloudier than the filtered water. Finally, the tea curious water is the least cloudy of the ice cubes. Now, I don't know if that's an airflow thing because of the way that we loaded the ice cubes up in the fridge, but just an observation. So whenever we do this, we don't know the answers yet, but I want to call it out in case someone knows, or, you know, can give an explanation. I've heard that, you know, so, I mean, I've seen that RO water, like completely stripped water, 0 minerals, will like freeze very, very clear. Whereas, you know, the harder the water is, the more cloudy the ice will be. But I think it's more complicated than that. There's like air bubbles and like the rate at which it freezes. So just calling it out for us to look at later. And yeah, we're on our way. And then I will accelerate the process just a tiny bit, but just putting a tiny bit of kind of like coldish water on top to see if we can get the ice to be brewing the tea leaves just a little bit faster, just a tiny bit. And I will try to pour in the exact same way for each one, because as you know, if you joined us before, the way that the water falls will change the way that the tea is extracted, I would say. If you pour from a high height versus a low height, that's a different kind of like velocity, weight going down the leaves. So for this one, I am pouring right on the ice cubes as much as possible, and not so much on the tea itself. So just trying to control for everything. And again, I'm not an expert at this kind of stuff, but we do quite a bit of practice with it, so we do our best. I'm trying to get all the leaves submerged as we go forward. I've also loaded up the ice in hopefully about the same way for each bowl. And yeah, we'll be on our way. So this is again the Tea Curious water recipe, the filtered tap water through Brita filter, and unfiltered Vegas tap water. Fresh, delicious alpine ice melt, virgin water, not. We can talk about Vegas water a little bit. How is your guys' tap water? I am so curious about this. We have quite a bit of folks from all over the world on the chat, and I always assume that Vegas has the worst water because we're the desert, and you know, we're all fighting for water rights with all the other states who are also more green than the rest of us because they have trees and stuff, and we're like the desert. So they're like, oh, those guys don't need water, except for the golf courses. That's it. So our water comes from Lake Mead, which is this giant man-made reservoir next to the city that they had to build because the city couldn't grow without the reservoir being dammed up. So it's, you know, a man-made reservoir. They treat the water quite heavily. We have a lot of chlorine in our water. We have a lot it's just very heavy water. It reads at 500 TDS, which is very heavy. For reference, Fiji is around like 80 to 160, from what I've seen. Arrowhead water, which, you know, if you're in America, you might have seen this a lot. Arrowhead, depending on the source, it's around like 200, 300, I think. And then Evian is also around that range. And Evian is very hard already, so we're dealing with very hard water here in Vegas. Spoiler alert, we don't like our water for hot brewing. It's very hard. Also, you can tell if your water is hard if everything stains. If you wash something and it still looks kind of like grimy because of the chalky kind of like white stains, you probably have hard water. And hard water is not the best for tea. Yeah, so we'll see. This is actually brewing quite quickly, which is kind of nice. I guess I'm doing a dual test here, which we shouldn't have done, but we didn't quite make the ice correctly the first time. Otherwise, I would have just let it sit. But pouring the water over the ice is accelerating the ice melt quite nicely. I think we'll be still able to get a good result from this experiment. So yeah, let me see what's been going on in chat. I got too excited. My sister Charmaine's here. Nice to see you from down the road. Leaves in hot water, seasonal mitigation, she fine teas. Shyla from Nev Orden, ZZ Boo, Benjamin. my European friends, especially, I was curious about this because to me, having been to Europe, thanks to my sister, your water. I mean, like for me, it's just like wow, like the water from like Alpine Meadows somehow gets to your city, and I know that not all like metropolitan areas in Europe have good water. I've talked about this a lot with our European friends, but still, I think on average you guys have better water than we do. What do you guys? What kind of water you guys have? Let's see. Did you say hi to Parker yet? Hi Parker. Seasonal mitigation said southeast hard water, no good. Shiloh says Portland's water is a little soft, but the mineral content actually works well for roasted and stronger flavored teas. That's awesome. So not only is the softness of the hardness, but also what kind of minerals are there. Vegas just has the wrong minerals because it's a lot of like just bicarbonate, a lot of just hard stuff. Tea Room Story says mountain water flowing down the pipes in Vienna. That's my my Europe dream. Same thing with Montreal. Montreal water is quite low TDS, but lots of chlorine, so it kills it. Shiloh, stronger flavored, not to be confused with artificial flavoring. Yeah. We find that we actually have our tea curious water, but also we are working on a dark version of it for stuff that's a little bit heavier. So we have like a light and a dark version, and then a matcha one that we're trying to work on. Because, and I'm not just trying to be extra, it does work better when you have the right water. It's just so worth it. It's just so worth it. And also I don't gotta scrub my tannin stains off of the bowl so much. Habain, can't compare, but I hate Montreal's water. It's very chlorine-like. I get my water from a source in the hills around. Ronan, here it's not bad to drink. There's worse, but for tea it's not good at all. Okay. Chris, from the UK, we have hard water, but our house had built-in water softener, so we don't need a filter. It's okay, but prefer soft water. Yeah, it's a struggle, and I really think it's important. If I had to equip someone with a tea tool of any kind, it would be good water, because I feel like, yeah, a bad tea with good water will become pretty good, but a good tea with bad water becomes bad. And we've been doing a lot of just digging into old Chinese tea scholars' writings about this, and there's so much they have to say about water. It goes back to like 700 AD. That's like, I'm so bad at math. 2000 minus 700 is 1300 years ago. They were already like nitpicking about water, and I remember this source. This guy was talking about water. I wish I remember their names. It's been a couple of weeks, but I will have a blog post about it. He wrote, I think in the 1400s, and he's like, oh, the ancients like Louis wanted us to collect water from mountain streams, but it's not possible these days in the 1400s because there's so much pollution, and we'll never be able to experience water the way the ancients did, which to me 1400s is the ancients. So I wonder what they would say about today with the kind of pollution we have, if it's even possible to get good water. But I think it is. And of course, ideally, they say that the best water is from the region that made the tea. So if you're given like let's say a Shufeng Longjing, Dragonwell's water in the surrounding area is best for brewing Longjing or Dragonwell. Or if you're having like an Uji matcha, the best kind of water to use is the Uji matcha area water, Uji water. And I think that's a generalization, but I think it does work, because what are the tea makers using to test their teas to see if it's good or not? They're using their own water. So naturally, over time, a tea maker will make tea that tastes better with their own water, which is why I think you'll say like in China they're like, oh, local water for this local tea, or in Japan, Japanese green tea does so well with Japanese water. I don't think that's just people being elitist or exclusionary. I think there is a hint of factual sense there. Chris, I'm not sure if you still I mean, I assume you're in the UK. Did you grow up drinking PG Tips? I noticed that the PG Tips kind of profile, Yorkshire, just UK, like English breakfast blend, does so well with the kind of water profile that the UK has. And I find that when I ask my UK friends what their favorite water is, it's a little bit more similar to your guys' tap water, depending on the person, of course. So it's just some interesting stuff going on there. And again, I'm so into this stuff because for so long I didn't know anything about water, and that is maybe okay if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you already have good water. But for us in Vegas, I felt like I just wasted so many years with bad water. Okay, so this is brewing up. Color differences, not much. I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised that there's not as much color difference. I'm just putting a little bit of water over the top again to accelerate it. How long has it been? I'm curious to see how long it's been so far. I think we put this in around 10 minutes in. It's going pretty fast, so I kind of like the fact that it's accelerating. So now we know that we can pour water over ice to accelerate the cold brew process, the ice brew process. I bet it's a different result, but yeah, I want to test this out some more. But we have relative ice brew. Let's check out the colors of these teas. We will use our handy dandy soup spoons. My favorite. Make sure we give these a rinse, just to make sure they're nice and clean in their respective waters. And if you are doing water testing, if you can, try to separate your equipment that you use, because the trace minerals in water are so tiny that you might not think it might make a difference, but like a single drop of tap water, a couple drops of tap water in like a gaiwan will change the mineral composition a little bit, you know? So we will make sure that we're using different spoons to taste. Yeah. Anyway, let us know what you guys are drinking again so far today, Saturday. After this, Activist Tea House friends, we will see you on the town hall. We're doing a town hall on decolonization in like 20. If not even that, on the Activist Tea House account. If you haven't followed that project yet and it sounds like something that's up your alley, you should probably go follow Activist Tea House. We don't talk about it a lot on Tea Curious because we do like to have like a little space where we can just talk about tea and breathe, but highly recommend it. Really, really recommend it. It's activist.teahouse on Instagram, and we are talking about decolonization today, not just in tea, but in general, which I think is important. And I'm very passionate about it because I grew up in a colony, previous colony. We don't think of ourselves as being colonies, but we are. Like, the Philippines was colonized for like 400 years. It's a long friggin' time. So, yeah. I see Jeff from Unity Store. I see Claire again. Nice to see you guys. And then let's see, a couple notes. In Yunnan, we drank Shangpuer on Nanwa Mountain and used the water trickling right on the spring from the mountainside. Yeah, I really think that there is a difference, for sure. Water terroir, right? There's a concept of like water terroir, which to me breaks down into mineral content, but it's true. Like silica, for example, is a mineral that you only find in very specific water conditions, and it's actually part of the Tea Curious formula, which makes it a little special. It's just a baby. We're just so proud of it. So the area that surrounds the water source, even like the plants that grow around there, supposedly affect the way the water is. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's what the ancient Chinese scholars said. So, and Korean and Japanese, they all said it. It's really interesting, fascinating stuff. If you're interested in that, let me know, because I'm about to write that history of water blog post. And yeah, wow, I spent like a whole week on like Baidu, on like Chinese Google, because there's just so much they talked about in the past about water. It's amazing. I just felt really connected to like Liu Yu and Zhang Youxin from like way back, and they're like, wow, I wonder if we would like be able to nerd out about water these days, or if they think that modern people are weird. Ronan says, in Belgium we have an interesting source. It contains a lot of iron. Okay, and you can clearly taste it, but once it's hot it works with some teas. Interesting. Iron rich water. I think we've had some of those. We weren't able to figure them out. And yeah, Jay says that must be quite the experience, hard to replicate. Yeah, for sure. Something about that. And yes, I do feel like I wish I could just collect water to make tea. But like in me, even if I love the mineral like additions, I feel like there's still something about going to the source, collecting it in a jar, and then bringing it. Like it's just more natural. But we live in Vegas, and even in Ilan, like the east coast of Taiwan where we spend a lot of time, that water is good, but it's not good for everything. So I think just, realistically living in the time that we have to find ways to replicate what the ideal is, because we can't always, right? I mean, people are like, oh, Ree, why can't you just collect spring water? What's all this hubbub? Number one, our spring water in Vegas sucks. We tested it. Number two, I have to drive there, load it up, come back. It's still like it's not zero waste to go drive 2 hours to the next closest best spring and stuff. So we're working on making it very sustainable. Yeah, just a couple more minutes, I promise. I just looked at all your notes. It's so interesting to see what water you guys have. Chris Hall said, I grew up with Tetley's tea, but Yorkshire tea is the most popular these days. They do versions for hard and soft water! That's crazy. I think it was the Earl Grey story from Sweden who told me that Swedish coffee companies know what kind of coffee to recommend to their customers based on which part of Sweden the person lives. Or if you're gifting coffee to someone, they'll ask, where does the person live? Oh, they live in the south. Okay, roasted. High roast, because it's darker, better for the harder water. Oh, they live in the north? Oh, it's softer, so then give them like a lighter roast coffee. I'm like, wow. And then when I go to the store here at Smith's, they look at me like I'm crazy for buying like 5 different brands of water to test. Seasonal mitigation. What about mineral stones in the kettle? I think that's a good step in the right direction. This is actually how I learned how to integrate minerals into water. Because if you think about it, mineral stones, not being an expert, but spending a lot of time on it, this is just my opinion. Mineral stones in your kettle, what's happening is that as the kettle boils, a little bit of the mineral content is going to the water, and maybe the stone might be uptaking some of the mineral content in the water. So you're still just playing around with mineral content. So I think mineral stones are very effective, especially the ones that I've gotten from Taiwan, have just been a good composition. The problem is, even between stones from the same source, you'll have a slightly different mineral composition with each one. So a stone might have a little bit more silica, and another stone might have a little bit more iron. So it's just not as easy to control, which is why we went this route of doing the controlled mineral content, which I'm okay with stones being stones. Like, they can live their life. I'm not saying, yo, stone, how come you can't be measurable? But for my tea, just practice and experiments, I want to have that control. So I know exactly what's in my water. If there's something wrong with it, I know how to change my water. What I found with mineral stones, bamboo charcoal, salt, all these additives to water that I've used before. I used charcoal for about a long time, like 3-4 years. The charcoal source changes the taste of the water, and then also how long you've had the charcoal in there. So your water might go like really good, and then as the charcoal gets older, the quality will go down just a little bit. With this, it's just total control. I like having control over my tea. It's a little bit of control I can have. Let's taste these. Okay, so we will. Wow, these look so beautiful. I'm really excited. Again, we've never done this experiment before. I am nervous that there will be no result, but I'll always tell you honestly what the result is, because I'm not into the whole, oh my god, it's so good, just to pretend and make it look like it's perfect. So I will never do that, and I'm nervous as a result, because if our Tea Curious water recipe doesn't work well here, that's just more testing. That's fun. I like testing. It's just been such a long journey. Okie dokie. Color differences. Steven, are there color differences at all? I don't see them. Do you think we should strain these? I have a feeling we need to strain them. Yeah, we usually just drink from, but I think we need to strain them. Yeah, let's strain them. So let us strain these babies so you can see if there is a color difference. So the color difference I'm worried about, or talking about, is that harder water will typically brew tea much darker. So let's see if we can get that baby going. Don't worry, we're about to taste tea. Gosh, I told Steven, gosh, this is gonna be the watching ice melt live. But I've really enjoyed learning about your guys' local water. If you have any questions about that, please let us know, because this is a topic that's very, very important to us. Yeah, okay. See, this is when I love the fact that we've done so many experiments. I know exactly which strainer to use, because this is the best performing strainer for us. Not this one, this one. The one that looks just like it. Where is it, Steven?
Should be in the same spot.
Are you sure?
Or maybe up top.
Are you sure? Where is it? I'll just hold that one in place. Yeah, it's the same. We have two versions of the same one. Okie dokie. So, tea curious water, ice, filtered water, ice, and tap water, ice, brew. Let's see how this goes. I will strain this in. Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's go for it. So yeah, this is a strainer that is a little bit more holy. It's got a little bit more holes, but we'll still be able to see if there is a color difference, I think. And I'm gonna try to squeeze out a little bit more of the drops. So that's a tea curious water ice. Let's see if there's a difference in color between these babies. Why is there a difference in color? What the hell? That's not what I expected, Steven. Is this what you expected? Why is the tea curious one so cloudy? Is it the strainer? That's weird. Okay, that must be a mistake of some sort. Look at the difference in color. There's something I must have done different. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense because these need to be the same TDS more or less. Okay, we'll figure it out later. We can't always have the answers. Let me clean out the strainer. Maybe it's because I should have cleaned out the strainer in between. This is why we do these live, so that if you're like, hey Reed, the reason why that's the case is because you did this wrong in your experimental method. I prefer that to happen. So if there's something that you're like, what? Oh, it must be why that is, let me know. That's just the way we like to roll. Yo, what the hell? How is this possible? This is not what I expected. Steven, this is like the opposite of what hot brew does. Now we have a pattern. Because the harder the water, the lighter it is?
Question mark?
That's weird. That does not happen. Because in hot brew, the harder the water, the darker the color is. But in this case, with the ice, the harder the ice, the lighter the color of the tea. That's weird. What? That's weird. Okay, we need to redo this at some point because this is weird. But that's okay. We can't always have perfect. Might tell us something. So let's see what happened. And you're sure I did this in the right order, right? I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm positive. So let's try it out. We will use our cups. Yeah, let's use our cups. Rinse them out. This is crazy. See, I told you we've never done this before, so we don't know what the result's going to be. And again, we know a lot about hot brew and how it reacts with minerals in water, but cold brew is a little bit new to us in terms of testing. So this might be one of those things that we just need to. This is why we do this, right? All right, you guys ready? I want to get one of the same size. Some of these are a little bit bigger. All right, let's try it out. I am rooting for the tea curious water. Oh my god, it's so green. Look at how green the tea curious water one is. And then this is the filtered tap. using Brita. We got about the same amount of volume quantity, which is nice. Meaning we were pretty consistent. Yeah, look how consistent we are, Steven.
Nice.
Yeah. So, wow, they're so different. I poured the same way, right? Did I pour the same way? This is odd. Let's try it. Wow, that's delicious. That's really good. So this is ice brew using Tea Curious water formula ice cubes. Tea Room Story said the second tea looked very clear in the bowl already. I guess so. This is so clear. The Tea Curious ice is really good. I'm really happy with that result. It's just so much aftertaste. It's flowery, it's fruity, it's got some like nuttiness to it, it's earthy. There's a lot going on. I really like that result. I'm very, very happy with that. So I think as we move forward, there's even a toastiness to it.
Yeah.
Might be because the tea is getting old, but that's okay. But in a good way. It's not a...
Yeah.
It's really... Wow. Really good. I'm happy. That makes me happy. So there's a lot that these two have to do to get to that, because that's very delicious. I see nothing wrong with it. Full texture, rich, umami, floral, fruity, grassy, got all the things I want from Samidori. It's also got a little beaniness to it that I sometimes see in Samidori. Just a tiny hint of it. Very, very good. Delicious. Let's see how the filtered water ice cubes do, and then the tap water ice cubes. As you can see, these look a little bit more similar in color, but this one's cloudy, but in not a good way. Like, this is cloudy in like a green rich kind of way. This one looks weird. So we don't know if it's because of the way that we poured it out, because it might be something I did differently when I poured it, you know, because pouring agitates the tea leaves, so it might be why we're seeing a color difference, but I do think I kept it pretty consistent. Let's try the filtered water. Well, let's drink water first. I keep forgetting that. Tea Curious water is better. I'm really excited. Okay, this is filtered tap water using the Brita filter. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. It's just good, but it's not something you write home about. This one I would write home about. That's just okay. This is like a 8 or 9. That's like a 5. It's not bad, but it's not interesting. Like, you could, if I went to the store and got some Itoen green tea and it tasted like this, I'd be pretty happy with the Itoen, right? But it's not what I want from this tea. Or Koridashi brewing method, where you want that richness and aftertaste, like you said, Shiloh. You know, aftertaste was amazing on the Tea Curious one. There's no aftertaste in this one.
No, none.
Like a little bit, but it's, I don't even know if it's this tea still happening,
right?
It doesn't have its own character. Huge difference. Massive. Not even a tiny bit. Like, huge difference. If you went to a store and you paid $10 for a Koridashi and they gave you this, you would be disappointed. And they gave you this, you'd be like, yeah, that ice brew is really cool. Last one. Tap water ice cubes. Wow. It tastes like nothing. There's nothing. It tastes like you make broth. You made broth out of T-bones. It's just nothing. It's just not there.
Where's the tea?
Yeah, where's the tea? It disappeared.
What?
There's nothing. That's crazy. Wow. There's no taste. It's almost like drinking water. Right, Steven? There's no taste. At all whatsoever. Nothing. I'm waiting. Like, did I drink tea?
Right.
That's crazy. This is a tap water ice cubes. I mean, it tastes like tea.
But then it's just gone.
It tastes like a 12 steep of a sencha. You know what I mean? Yeah. But not even that good, because a 12 steep of a sencha can be pretty delicious if it's the right sencha.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's gone. It's goodbye. It left. It's absent without leave. There's nothing. If you squeeze my hand a little bit and like, are you sure it's nothing, Ray? I'm like, I guess there's like a tiny bit of like.
Just right on the front, like it doesn't spread, you know.
It's like someone sprinkled a tiny bit of sand on my hand, and that's just that's sand.
Yeah.
It's just so tiny. Let's go back. Let's see what happens if we go back. So filtered ice cubes. I mean, that's so much better than the tap water. Like, miles better. There's at least some taste. Try it out, Stephen. There's some taste. I can respect that now. Back to the Tea Curious ice cubes. Wow, it's so different. That's crazy. Oh my god. That's huge. Yo, I can't even explain how different this is.
It's insane.
That's insane. Wow. This is one of the most dramatic differences we've seen so far. I mean, we do see quite dramatic differences in our experiments. We're not just making it up, but this is huge. Massive. If you're making any kind of ice brew, I need to shake you and be like, yo, I know you're waiting for your ice brew. You probably used really expensive Yokoro for it too. And you're like waiting for it. And you took a picture of it, and like, I think this is partially why sometimes people don't like methods that they test, because if you're looking at a Japanese tea instructor make koridashi, they're probably using good water because they have either good water at their house or they're used to it. Yo, if someone gave me this result as my first koridashi, I'd be like, this is a scam.
Yeah.
This is just for show. This is for Instagram. That tastes like nothing.
Yeah, what a waste of perfectly
good tea.
What a waste of
perfectly good tea.
Might as well throw it in the trash.
Yeah, might as well just throw it in the trash. Okay. Chris says, sounds like water that happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas. There are some situations where we like our water. For example, it brews an okay green tea when it's hot, but not much. It's really not that great. But think about it, Chris, and everyone else. When you give tea to someone who's in your neighborhood, you're not trying to say, hey, make sure that there's water, that the water's good, right? And they go home and they're like, yeah, you said that there's like gooseberry notes and strawberry and camphor. It's going to be so awesome. But where is it? I didn't taste it. You're like, oh, maybe they didn't like the tea. Maybe it was their fucking water. This is why it's so important, both for like people who share tea to friends and like vendors. You need to make sure people are at least aware that they need to be responsible about their water. This is not even... I can't express how different this is. I wish you guys could be here. Just put it in your mouth. It's just gone. This is gone. That's amazing. Steven, if you had to rate them, that's like a 0 or a 1.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing. This is like a 5, and this is like an 8. 9.
Yeah.
I think it might be even better with like a higher grade Yokoro. We just use a Fukamushi Sencha here. That's amazing. That's one of the best sips of Japanese green tea I've ever had. Which means the Tea Curious water formula is okay for ice. So I am pretty happy about that. We have labored so much over this baby. We'll continue to test it as we finish the last touches on making this recipe open source, which we will, by the way. We're going to publish this recipe. You can use it and make it yourself at home. We'll also be using the recipe to make sustainably packaged water formula packets in case you just don't want to deal with it. I recommend doing it at home, but for those of you who just don't want to deal with mixing formula at home, we'll make that available eventually. But I just want Fiji to know that they suck and our water's better, and you don't have to fly artesian water from the middle of the Pacific to make good tea here. This is what the hack is. Isn't that amazing? We can make Fiji water in my house. So yeah, I am really happy. Thank you so much for joining us for today's experiment. This was huge. I really wish you could just taste it. Make sure that your water's good. If you have any questions, please let us know. Ice brew, use good water, please. It's so worth it. You will be sad if you use bad water, or if you'd like to test it out, because it's worth spending a little bit to taste how bad it is to appreciate how good it is. Because now I'm like,
agree, yeah.
Fucking tap water and Brita. Oh god, wow. So thank you again for joining us. This has been super fun. Let us know if you have any questions. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you might be. If you guys are joining us for Activist Tea Houses live in a little bit, we'll see you guys there. Yeah, we're signing off. Ree and Steven from Vegas and our water. Have a wonderful weekend wherever you might be. Bye. Yo, our water is really good. Yo, Steven. Yo, this water.